One, two, 10 for you. Better lock the door. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Stoly Doly Scaries.
I'm your host, John Reggie Jr.
And I'm your host, Kyryn. And this is Herbie Kruger. And today we will be watching the iconic 80s classic, Nightmare on Elm Street.
If Nancy doesn't wake up screaming, she won't wake up at all.
I tell you, watching this back, it's been a long time since I watched it from start to finish. And it is a really terrifying concept because sleep is like recluse. Like that's where you go to escape.
Yeah, sleep is so precious and poignant. And if somebody is trying to murder you while you're trying to do that, it's going to ruin your life in so many ways.
Yeah. Like I really felt for her. And all of these scenes with her deep, dark circles. I just can't imagine being that fearful to go to bed. Like that's truly like heinous. And this was born out of a true story. Like that's how Wes Craven got the idea because he read a newspaper article about these kids who were having these nightmares and 3 of them died like in their sleep and there was no explanation for them dying. And so
yeah, it's a little too real. You know what I'm saying? I know what it's like to be deprived of sleep. Let me tell you.
Well, you've been up all night with Miss Taylor Swift.
Are we going to tell the listeners about that we're doing this on the drop of
on
Taylor's
the day,
album?
on this precious of days? Yeah. I don't know if I knew you were a Swiftie. Like,
I don't claim myself to be a Swiftie. I don't know information about this woman's life. All I know is that, some of her songs are good. And specifically the last album really nailed it home for me.
Yeah, it spoke to you.
So, yeah, it spoke to me.
Today's cocktail is going to be the Elm Street Old Fashioned. It's strong. It is not for the faint of heart. You can find all the details on how to make it on our Instagram at StolyDolyScaries. We'll be taking a sip every time somebody dreams. All right, here we go. Nightmare on Elm Street was released in theaters November 9th, 1984. Directed by Wes Craven, starring Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, Ronnie Blakely, Robert Englund, and Johnny Depp. First appearance in a film for Johnny Depp. So it starts out, we're in a dingy warehouse. We see the vantage point of only somebody's hands. They're making these knife gloves.
I really appreciate the fact that we get to see the making of his hand. I thought it was pretty neat. So, the iron working, jamming it in there, whatever. It's cool, right?
I didn't know. For some reason, I always thought he didn't have a hand. I don't know why I thought that. And I thought maybe they took off his hands and he had to make these. But these are elective knife hands. He doesn't need these. So it is helpful.
Yeah. Weapon of choice. Fingers. Finger knives.
Then, boom, we cut to a girl's face. She's super cute, blonde, adorable bob, very difficult to pull off. She does it well. She's in a dingy hallway in a fabulous nightgown. She's freaked out. She's running through the hallway, and we hear a man whispering her name, Tina. A lamb pops out. I don't love that. I don't really understand the significance of that. I looked it up, and it's supposed to be it's supposed to be representative of like the lamb to the slaughter, like an
Mm-hmm.
innocent, but I
Yeah.
don't think it hits. I don't think anybody would have gotten that, but they put it
Yeah.
out there. A lamb wanders into the hallway. She runs downstairs into deeper into this dingy warehouse, and a man is chasing after her. And she's running so slow. It's like a Sims run. She's barely moving, and he is absolutely catching up to her. He corners her, comes over to her with his knife glove, and just like through her adorable nightgown, and she wakes up screaming.
And let me just say, the scream is weak. I'm not lying. But you know what I do love? The nightie is fire.
I
Um,
will say, I literally put in my notes, we gotta bring nightgowns back. I want to spearhead this effort. I've always thought this. She is adorable. It's comfy. It's airy.
yeah.
Very sweet.
You know what? I'm going to
Mhm.
start wearing a nightie.
Yeah. Let's be
Why not?
airy. Let's be free. So it was all a nightmare. Her mom comes in to check on her, and the mom says, must have been some nightmare. Because she looks down, and there's a cut, just like Freddy's hand, right through her nightgown. Then the mom's icky boyfriend comes in. Let me tell you, if you're not watching this movie with closed captions, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because there's a lot of shit I never caught. This icky man in a wife beater comes in and says, "You coming back to the sack or what?" Mom says, hold your horses, blah, 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 blah. Shoos him away. And then she says to Tina, "Look, you got to cut your fingernails or you got to stop having those kind of dreams." I do. I don't understand. Lady, Tina can't control those things. We can't control our dreams, homie. Yeah.
This mom, busted. She's busted. We're getting... I'll start there, and I'll end with we're getting religious references already. The crucifix on the wall, and maybe that's why the lamb was there, the innocence of it all. I won't talk about the short king that comes in to the mom, but when what? And you know what?
I
Taylor
love
has
it
a
when
song.
people say short king.
Taylor has a song on the new album about a short little,
The
short little man.
smallest man. Yeah.
Just the
Mm-hmm.
smallest man who ever lived.
I think it's this guy.
The comment about the fingernails or stop that kind of dreaming or something, that doesn't land. What is interesting is that whatever happened to her in the dream is now happening in real life. So you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tina's freaked out. She grabs the crucifix off the wall and holds it close, which, girl, I get it. Then we get like a dreamlike scene of girls skipping jump rope to the tune of 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Then it's the next day. Tina pulls up to school with her friends Nancy and Glen, and she's telling them how freaked out she is about this nightmare. They are trying to be patient with her. They're listening to her, but they are still kind of dismissive of her. Like, this is a dream. I don't know. Maybe she's like omitting the part where she woke up with a fucking slash through her nightgown because that's pretty concerning. I think that is something to include, but whatever. Nancy goes to tell her she also had a bad dream when Tina's boyfriend, Rod, comes up to them and says, "I had a heart on when I woke up, Tina. Had your name written all over it." Again, closed captions really coming. I don't remember this at all.
It's very fitting for someone named Rod to have a
Rod.
heart on. Of course.
Mm-hmm. Also, Rod looks about, at least 30s. I would say this is giving Grease. This is giving some of the older characters. He's got a leather jacket on. He's obviously like a bad boy.
Yeah,
I fucking
it's
hate
giving Kaneki.
Oh my god, it totally is. It totally is. I don't know what the fuck is with the men in this movie. They are garbage. Besides, I was going to say besides Glen, but no. Glen fucks up so many times.
He fucks up plenty of times, and we'll get into it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Tina quips back, love her. There's 4 letters in my name, Rod. How could there be room on your joint for 4 letters? So quick. Good
Give
job,
it up.
Tina. Gorgeous comeback. Absolutely.
Not a great
stellar.
scream, but she's got comebacks.
You know, we all got our gifts. So he doesn't like that. He says, up yours with a twirling lawnmower. Good one, buddy. You really saved yourself there. So that evening, Tina's still freaked out. Her mom is away in Vegas with her boyfriend, which totally tracks. Absolutely. Tina doesn't want to be left alone. So her pals, Nancy and Glen, come over to keep her company. So she doesn't have to be by herself. Nancy and Tina are having a heart-to-heart, and she tells her, I've been seeing that creep's face and hearing his fingernails all day. And Nancy says, fingernails? That makes me think of my dream. I dreamt of a guy in a dirty red and green sweater. He had knives for fingers. And Tina is shooketh, because that's exactly the dream that Tina had. And so they're having this moment of realization that, like, oh my God, we dreamt about the same creep. What are the odds of that? Then we hear something screeching outside. So the gang go to check it out. And we get our first big old jump scare. Dirty Rod hops out of the bushes and onto Glen, scares the shit out of him. He is such a weenie. And he kind of whisks Tina away. He's like, oh, come on, I came to make up. And he kind of whisks her away inside to her parents' bedroom so they can have some fun. So they go upstairs. Glen sees an opportunity. He starts to get his kissy on with Nancy, but she pushes him back and says, not now. We're here for Tina. And, girl, Tina is gone. I think this is a Class C excuse. And Glen picks up on that, I think. He's pretty annoyed. There's obviously, some missing things happening in their relationship, some love lost there.
I want to give it up for real reactions to a noise outside. Because they hear this screech outside, and all 3 of them, arm in arm, go outside together. And I'm like, thank you. And I think the acting is believable for how old they are. And I like it.
Yeah.
And then they send the bro out, right? After they get
Glen.
to the back.
It would have been safer with Nancy. Nancy,
Honestly,
we'll find out later. Nancy is the badass.
And the boys get into a little tiff, and then Rod pulls out a pocket knife. What era did we pull knives on our friends and threaten them?
Gotta be the 80s.
When was
I don't know
that?
if they're friends. I think they are friends simply because their girlfriends are friends type of, like, relationship. I don't think it's a close-knit shit. Maybe. I don't know.
It seems very immature to be like, oh, you want to rough me up? I'm pulling out my knife. Like, who does that?
Oh, Rod is a piece of shit. I think Rod, I hate him. And it's not just because he reminds me of Kaneki. I think he is just like such a shit, terrible character. Too old for the part, for sure. Unrealistic.
But then, like, Nancy taking that knife from him and just shutting it and be like, the fuck out of here with this. I was like, Nancy.
She's a real one.
She is a real one. And also that coupled with being a selfless friend, she's stellar in my book.
Yeah. Okay, so Nancy and Glen go inside. Glen sleeps on the couch while Nancy goes and sleeps in Tina's bed, and they both hear Tina and Rod getting it on real gross style. It's over the top. It ain't that good. I don't believe them. They finish, and Rod says, you feel better? And Tina responds,
Jungle Man fix Jane.
The dialogue in this movie is truly wild. It is truly unbelievable. Yeah, Jungle Man fixed Jane. She lost her cool points. The points that she got earlier for coming back. This is atrocious to me. This is like really cringy.
I'm gonna say that it's a little, playful, inside jokey, whatever, kind of weirdish behavior that only like people in couples do when, you know.
You're super sweet. That's very. You're giving them a lot of. You're giving them a lot of leeway. I don't know. I didn't love it. But whatever. They had a good time. So they go to sleep, and Tina is awoken by a pebble being thrown out her window. And she hears the same voice from her dream earlier saying, Tina, Tina. She goes outside to check it out because sure. And she's walking down an alleyway.
Barefoot in this motherfucking alley.
But always barefoot.
Come
And
on.
that becomes a problem with Nancy.
Yeah.
Got a big cut on her foot. Like she had some real issues because they had her do all of these scenes barefoot. And that's danger zone, buddy. Danger. So she's walking down an alleyway when she sees the shadow of a fedora. And pow, we get our first glimpse of old Freddy Krueger. The camera pans into his face and he says, Tina. And then it pans back and we get a shot of like his arms being stretched. And I really, really fucking hate this. I fucking hate it. I think it makes it like silly. I don't know why they decided to, like, this isn't scary to me.
I'm gonna hold your feet a little bit to the fire on the comedy aspect of this because you absolutely know this because I've said it multiple times on this podcast. I sometimes don't like comedy in a horror movie because it takes me out of it. I want to be scared. We got it. This though, even from the first, like him building the hand and then whatever, we get the scene with her. The whole thing was kind of funny, but like still kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like in a weird way. I don't know if it's just the way he looks. I don't know if it's the way he sounds. Sometimes, I mean, he's like smiling half the time.
I will say, the only reason I don't love the comedy in this movie, the only reason I like it is because I think it makes things really unexpected because I'll talk about it in a minute, but there's a special effect that is horrible. It was like, what the fuck was that? And then the next scene is like unbelievable and like really scary.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of consistent. Yeah. Like we got these like long stretch. I fucking hate that.
I mean,
I don't like it. I think it's, it like cheapens the film, some of the special effects. And I think they should have just not done them. He could have just chased after her.
I do think like the oversized arms or whatever, I feel like doesn't work in theory until you know that it's a dream. And then you're like, well, oh, okay, like anything can happen, right? Like exaggerate things, make it bigger. Sure. He's trying to scare the shit out of her and he's trying to do it in any way possible. And he's really doing it to get to the whatever trash can that he can scrape up against, but he's trying to be bigger than what he is. But Freddy as a character is a fucking comedian. My God,
he is funny. It's certainly in
he's got
later
charisma.
Movies, we kind of only get a little taste of him in later movies. Like it's fucking wild. So he starts chasing her. He finally does get a hold of her, and he's on top of her. She rips off his face and we get, I mean, this is just a horrible special effect. It's so, I'm going to put a clip of it right here. It is really bad. But then we get maybe one of the best special effects in the whole movie. We cut to her in real time, in real life. It is a dream. So sippy dippy do. God, I hate this wig so very much. God, I can't wait to do this all. We cut to her in real life. She's having a horrible nightmare, and she's screaming. Rod jumps out of the bed and pulls the cover off of her, and she's just like wriggling away in bed. Then her shirt rips open and we see like something like scrape across her chest, but it's invisible. Obviously, there's nobody in the room, but something scrapes across her chest, the knives. And then she is dragged all across the room, just like screaming bloody murder as he is killing her. And look, you know, I don't like to be judgmental because I don't know what I would do in these situations. You never know, right? But I'd like to think I would do a whole lot more than fucking Rod, who just sits in the corner in his whitey tighties screaming, Tina, Tina. And this is a long scene. She is wriggling around this room, fucking dying for what seems like forever. And he is just sitting there in his underwear, just like, Tina. I don't like this. He doesn't deserve that leather jacket. It bothers me immensely.
I can't say what I would do in this scenario, and so maybe I don't fault Rod to the extent that you do, but I appreciate your opinion. There's something to be said about that because maybe I would like call for help from the other friends that are maybe there. But also, if you're seeing this bitch levitating, going up the wall
Yeah.
onto the ceiling of the bedroom, I would be like, what is happening? Like anything could be happening right now, and I don't even
Yeah.
know. Is it ghosts? Is it nightmares? Is it? So what is she? There's no explanation. That's the part that's scary. And so like the shock and the adrenaline and who knows what.
Sure.
This bitch gets sliced up
Big time.
and she just falls from the ceiling to the bed. Like, did she break her neck or
Like,
something?
bloop.
How did she just die?
Just like that. And the silence is overwhelming from her like wriggling around like nothing. It's very jarring. It's a very unexpected scene. And again, it's
Yeah.
because we just had the weird long arms and the ripped
Mhm.
off face that was the
Mhm.
most 80s special effects you could ever imagine to this very real, terrifying scene. And so Rod doesn't handle it well. I'll just say it. In my opinion, I don't think he did the most. Regardless, Nancy and Glen are hearing her screams. They're trying to get inside the room. They finally pop it open and they get in. They see blood everywhere, an open window, and Miss Tina dead on the floor. And again, the fact that he just jumped out the window,
Not a good look.
candy ass. Real
Um,
fucked up.
I am super impressed that we got right to it 20 minutes in, and
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate this. Give me a kill.
Yeah.
Get me the story. Get me the characters. I'm in.
Yeah, I agree. So the next scene, we're at the police station. We see the lieutenant being briefed on what happened. They think a razor was used. The boyfriend is MIA. He's got a record. They obviously are going to think it was him. And then we find out that Lieutenant Thompson is Nancy's father, her papa. He walks into the room where Nancy is being held with her mom. They're obviously divorced, the parents. I mean, that's so clear right from the get go. But also, maybe it's just me. The mom, Marge, I think she's been hitting that tanning bed a little hard. Her skin is like a shade I've never seen before.
There's something to say about the parents of this film too, in many, many different ways.
Her specifically is like, she's truly like an unbelievable character.
I did want to mention at the scene with the cops, Sergeant Parker, actor Joseph Whipp, is also the cop in Scream.
Really? I love
Who
that
also
Wes Craven
plays
is using the same extras. That's fun. So the dad is very upset. He's just like asking, basically, he's just like, why was she there in the first place? He's very upset that Nancy was at Tina's with this hoodlum, Rod, and old Tanny Bed steps in and she says, apparently he was crazy jealous. Nancy said they had a fight. And Nancy is like, no, but like it wasn't that serious. And Marge says, maybe you don't think murder is serious. And from that point on, I knew I was not going to like this lady. That was just such a crazy thing to say. Like, fuck. Your daughter's best friend was murdered violently, and she found the body. She knows both the people involved. Like, what the fuck do you know, lady? And Nancy comes back really strong, like, how could you say that? How dare you, bitch? And she says, no, I just like meant their fight wasn't that serious. They fight all the time. It wasn't like a murder fight. It was just a little petty teenage nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We get a fade to black. Next day, next morning, Nancy's mom is pouring herself a glass of vodka. One of many. One of many, many. They cut to the TV. They're talking about Tina's death. She was supposed to be 15 years old, which I don't know about that. And they're also showing extremely graphic images for TV. Like, they're showing her body being rolled away and like her arm. Not like, it's a little intense. So that's on the TT. When Nancy comes down, Nancy has obviously not slept a wink. She looks rough. Don't blame her. And her mom is like, what are you doing? Like, you can't possibly go to school. You haven't slept, blah, blah, blah. Nancy convinces her, like, look, like, I can't stay here. Like, I need to keep my mind moving. Like, I need to be busy. I can't stay here with you, tanning bed lady. So Nancy fiddles away. And as she's walking, somebody grabs her and pulls her into the bushes. It is a shirtless Rod. She looks at him and asks, did you do it? Point blank. And he says, I didn't touch her. There was somebody else in the room with us. And Nancy's like, dude, the door was locked. Nobody was in there with you. And he's like, I'm not crazy. I'm not, blah, blah. And just as he's kind of starting to get to the good explanation, Nancy's papa pops out with a gun to his head. They were following Nancy, I guess, because they knew she would lead them right to Rod, or he would come to her. I don't know. A little fucked up.
I just wanted to comment because I know you're wearing this iconic look, but I'm gonna say this, Nancy, this ain't the look. Pale. First of all, you up until this point, you're giving me badass bitch, selfless friend, iconic scenester. You're wearing a pale pink knitted vest and khakis after your friend just died?
Yeah. But she was sleep deprived. She probably wasn't thinking. She could have ran a brush through her hair. There's a lot of things she could have done.
True.
But Nancy's got a lot of things on her mind.
But in this exchange with Rod, the fact that she jumps in front of her father, who's pointing the gun at him as he flees away from the bushes, Nancy's a ride or die.
She must really believe that he didn't do it. I think from the start, even when she asks him, she doesn't really think he did it. I do think it's a little wild that she jumps in front of the gun. I mean, whoa. She's a nice gal. I don't think I'd do that for Rod. But it doesn't, it's not worth anything because old Rod runs away and he's got boo, 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 boo. Cop cars coming down this street, and they corner him and he's on the ground, cuffed. It's over. Nancy walks away. She goes to school pissed off, sitting in class. She's barely able to keep her eyes open. She just keeps doing one of these nod things. And when she looks over, she sees, this is a little fucked up. She sees Tina standing there bloodied in a body bag, like reaching out to her.
She is dreaming because we know that Tina's dead, and how is Tina saying anything? So drink to that.
This would be a miracle. She gets up and follows Tina and sees at the end of the hallway, Tina's like on the ground in the body bag and somebody is dragging her feet and like dragging her across the floor. She runs after her. She runs into a hall monitor who's in a red and green sweater, which, fun fact, I should have brought this up. I thought this was really interesting. So originally it was supposed to be a red and yellow sweater. Oh. But Wes Craven read an article that said the two most contrasting colors to the human retina were red and green. And so that's why he decided to alter the colors and make it red and green. Also, Fred Krueger was the name of his bully.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy it.
I do too.
Because this lived on forever and ever. And his high school bully has probably had it real rough.
The bully got bullied.
The bully got bullied. So she runs into a hall monitor who's in a red and green sweater and pigtails. And she's, like, where's your hall pass? And Nancy said, screw your hall pass. It's an overly dramatic scene for no reason. She goes to walk away from the old hall monitor when suddenly the hall monitor, she doesn't turn into Freddy, but she says something in like Freddy's voice. So she doesn't like physically, but she has like the glove. Running in the hallway. She does run away from them though, and she goes into the basement, which is like a boiler room, which is the same atmosphere of all of these dreams. And there's Freddy. And she says, "Who are you?" He responds by lifting up his shirt and doing the old slashy dash. And he's got maggots and green slime inside. And, it's very over the top. Nobody paid attention to him enough as a child. It does catch Nancy's attention, though. She is alarmed. She's now taking the situation seriously. She sprints away, screaming. She falls into the same trap of old Tina. She hits a dead end. He comes over to her, and he's pretty foul.
Freddy.
He's a little dirty, and I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know if I really like it. I'm confused. He does some like serious like tongue action to her.
It's fucked up because it's like it's funny, but it's not funny. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. I mean, she's a 15-year-old girl. And actually, I think she was pretty young. I don't think this is one of those situations where she was like 23 playing. I think she actually was that age. She looks like it. And I know at one point this was written and Freddy Krueger was supposed to be a child molester. And they changed it because there was a child they didn't want to be connected to an actual child molester who was in that area that they were doing the filming or where the movie was set. And so they ended up changing it to child murderer. Just better, but like
it is better, but it's still crazy shit happening. Nobody. It's uncomfy.
So Nancy screams. So he's cornered her. He does his little tongue action, very fast, very impressive, and Nancy screams, "God damn you!" and then burns her arm on a pipe, which is real smart thinking of her. I think she knows that she's dreaming and she wants to wake herself up. So she burns her arm on a pipe and then she wakes herself up in class and she like jumps out of her seat and she's like screaming as all the people are watching her. And she's freaked out, obviously. The teacher comes over to try to comfort her, but she's like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." And she says, "I'll go right home." She runs out of the room, runs out of the high school.
That's what a scream sounds like, Tina.
It is a serious scream. She runs outside, taking a moment to herself, and she's like catching her breath. And then she looks down at her arm, and there's the burn. Very a la Tina with the scrapes on her nightgown. So what's a dream? Is it really a dream? We don't know. So she decides to go visit Rod in jail to get his side of the story. And he tells her that there was somebody in the room with them, that he couldn't see them. They were invisible, but they were cutting Tina and he could see the razors hitting her skin all at once. And he gets teary-eyed and he says, "I probably could have saved her if I had moved sooner." Sooner. Rod, you didn't move.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
There's no sooner. You did not move, Rod. He just really shit the bed on this one. It bugs me. However, he does say, and he says he thought it was just another nightmare because he's been having the same dreams that all these people have been having. So he thought it was just another nightmare. That's why he didn't act. And he tells her that he had had a nightmare and it was a guy who had knives for fingers, same one that all these homies have been having. And Nancy looks just totally spooked. She believes him. She believed him all along. She stepped in front of a gun for this dude. She never really thought he did it. So the next scene is super iconic. A little bothersome, but whatever. Nancy is in a bath. She's got a cool seashell pillow behind her head.
Honestly, give it
Comfort.
up.
Yeah.
Give it up for that head prop.
She is deep in the bath. She's trying to relax. Her eyes are slowly, doing the fade. The camera angle pans to between her open legs, and slowly we see Freddy's hand panning right between her legs, coming out from underneath the water towards her
Mm-hmm.
face. And
Mm-hmm.
just as they're about to be on her, her mom boop, boop, knocks on the door and says, "Nancy, don't fall asleep. You could drown." And Nancy says, "Oh, mother, blah blah."
This is a very special shot. It is done well. I would say that a lot of themes come up for people in this moment, and especially in the religious connotation of it all. This is how I took it. I took it as like the crucifix in the beginning with Tina is something that's like these kids are somewhat religious, they believe in something, and Freddy ultimately is meant to be like somehow religious guilt in some aspect, like the theme of that. The hand in this scene to some is supposed to represent like masturbation in some way, and
What?
about, yes, it's a whole thing, girly, and
I
about
didn't
like
hear that.
he's gonna kill you if you do this, because there's another callback to that when Glen is asleep and the reason why he dies.
Yep.
I didn't really think about it too much when I was watching the film, and then like, stuff you see online, you're like,
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. The dissecting of it. I
Yeah.
definitely didn't pick up on that. What? I almost wish it was the case that it was like supposed to be like a deeper meaning, because
Hmm.
something about it just rubs me the wrong way, man. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I really do think it's just the age of Nancy that
Yeah.
that bugs me. She was young,
Yeah.
and it's just a bit like, did he have to reach between her legs? I don't know. So she falls right back to sleep after her mom warns her. And immediately, Freddy pulls her underneath the water and tries to drown her. And he kind of pulls her underneath, like it looks like this bottomless, dark water. Like it's
Hmm.
really a cool effect that he's
Yeah.
pulling her into this. And so she's struggling. She's calling for her mom. She's drowning. And then kind of inexplicably, Freddy just releases her. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't really know what that's about. Because her mom hasn't broken in yet. Her mom hears her and she's trying to get in,
Hmm.
but at this point, he could have killed her, but he
Yeah.
doesn't.
I think in my best guess, it's the fact that because she's moving around in that environment, that she's going underwater. And so it's making her get awake.
Awake. That's a good point. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't think about that. So she's struggling. Whatever. He lets her go. Just as the mom breaks in and she's like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
Nancy," and Nancy's like, "I'm fine, it's all good." She's not alarmed enough, in my opinion, and I know she probably doesn't want to spook her mom, who is a fucking loose cannon at this point, hiding booze and like between the towels and shit. But I do think it's a little shocking that she is kind of unbothered. It's almost like at this point she knows what's happening and she knows he's coming to her in the dreams, and this is just a thing.
Hmm.
So she kind of shoos her way her mom, like, "Oh, I slipped. It's nothing. I'm fine. Bye bye." And then she goes directly into the medicine cabinet to find her stay awake pills. And she pops a couple of them bad boys. And she also has, like, this is really weird to me. She's got coffee pots hidden in her room. Just consist, she is going a little cuckoo pants here. She's drinking bukus of coffee and taking her super safe over the counter stay awake pills. She's doing whatever she can.
Comedy.
Yeah.
The pills are comedy.
Yeah. So now she's in her bedroom. She's trying to stay awake. She's got her coffee pots and her weird pills, and she's watching horror movies. She's trying anything she can do to not fall asleep. And Mr. Hottie Hot Glen taps on her window. He comes in her bedroom and they're chatting, and she's talking how she hasn't slept since Tina died. And I don't like his character. He's like, "Well, yes, I slept like a rock. I'm I'm doing great. Like, fuck you.
So I would say, like, the boyfriend coming through the window, very Scream-esque
mm,
also.
that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
this motherfucker is barefoot too.
Is he?
Yeah, what is with these
I
kids?
didn't notice that. That's interesting. Interesting choice, Glen. I
Hmm.
wouldn't have thought that. I
I think
also
it,
just wouldn't have thought he would climb into her window. I can't figure out their relationship, but it doesn't feel sexual. It doesn't feel like they have like really kissed more than
I
a
mean, it feels
couple
like young,
movies. Maybe
young.
like across the street love. That love you have with like a hot, neighbor that you grew up with, but maybe it's not super passionate. It's no Rod Tina love.
Well,
I don't know if
Rod,
they're
Tina,
connected.
maybe they're like, sick, just turned 16, and maybe they're experimenting a little bit more. Whereas,
Sure. Like Jungle
Nancy
Man
and
fixed Jane. I agree. I don't think we get the same passion from Glen and Nancy, and they did
yeah,
no favors with those name choices. So,
no.
uh-uh. But she says, oh God, he said like they're having a chat, and she tells him she hasn't slept, and she like pulls a hand mirror out and looks at herself and says, "Oh my God, I look 20 years old," and just.
Fucker.
Fuck you, Nancy. You know what? Get some
Also,
concealer, babe. It ain't that big a D. You look
my God.
20 years old. Ooh.
Ooh.
Poor, poor Nancy. Gosh, how tough. Um, she asked Glenn if he can do a favor for her.
Hmm.
She says she's going to go looking for somebody, but she needs him to keep watch. And it's really important that he doesn't screw it up. And it could be like a life or death situation. She's really laying it out to him. And Glenn says, "Yeah, I won't screw up. I can help you. I got you." Basically, this plan is she is going to go to bed, and Glenn was going to keep watch. She's going to go looking for Freddy. And if she looks distressed, he's going to wake her up. That is Glenn's job. Wake up, man. So she's, explaining the plan to him. They fade away to black. And then the next scene is her exiting the house barefoot in her super cute PJs. Very stylish, very precious. She walks towards the jail where they're holding Rod. And she goes to his cell and she looks in. She sees him sleeping, but then she also sees Freddy walking into the cell, walking through the jail bars to like come towards Rod. She looks away, she looks back, and Freddy's disappeared and everything's
Hmm.
cool. But then she turns around and she sees our old pal Tina hanging in her body bag. She just can't escape it. A centipede crawls out of her mouth. Like it's pretty ooey.
Gross.
And
Hmm.
Nancy's freaked out. She's calling out for Glenn at this point. She's begging him to wake up. Like, Glenn, what the fuck? Like, she knows she's sleeping and she's like begging him to wake up. And boom, there's Freddy. He chases her back to her house where she gets in, she locks the door. She tries to run up the stairs, but they turn into marshmallow, which is very dreamlike. I actually really enjoy this. Freddy breaks the glass and he's wearing Tina's face. This dude has no chill. He like I actually kind of really enjoyed it.
It's
Like he is
terrifying.
fucked up. He is
It's
fucked
terrifying.
up. He's wearing Tina's face and he says Nancy's name like in Tina's like voice, and then it like pops off and he like laughs. It just whoa. And Nancy runs into her room, locks the door. We see old Glen sleeping behind her peacefully, piece of shit, in his chair. She looks in the mirror that's on like behind the door and she says, "It's just a dream. Like it's just a dream. This isn't real." And just as she says that, fucking Freddy smashes through the mirror towards
Hmm.
her and they like wrestle on the bed. They're having like a full-on brawl. He's slicing pillows. It's a whole thing. This whole time, Glen is just sleeping peacefully. At one point, they literally roll on top of him and doesn't wake up. What actually ends up waking her up and saving her life is her old alarm clock, which just Claps for alarm clock. Good on her for setting a safety measure because we knew we couldn't count on Glen. Fucking loser.
Jesus.
She, wakes up in a sweat. Glen, it wakes up like, oh, what? What happened? She slams him, rightfully so, calls him a bastard. You shit! You had one job. She is like tough on him, and I really enjoy it. She's not mincing words. She's like, you fucked up, you piece of shit. You suck. And he doesn't feel as bad as he should, I think. But the thing is, nobody is taking Nancy seriously. Her mom's not taking her seriously. Her dad, like, everyone thinks she is full of shit. I would expect Glen to have a little bit more sympathy for her, though, because he's going through a similar thing. Like, he's having dreams, too, later we find out. And he found Tina's body with her. Like, I would expect him to be the most understanding. And I think he's just a very lackluster character. And I don't know if that's Johnny Depp's portrayal of him or just the way the character was written, but I fucking do not like his character.
I mean, like, out of character developments, you're like, he really isn't the worst piece of shit that he really could be, but he could be better. But
he doesn't
like,
have
is
bad
that
intentions. He's just so lame. I don't know.
he's just
He doesn't do it.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
Very whatever. Very lackluster character. He does not come through. He's not to be counted on, and he lets her down big time. She could have died. Whatever. So as she's laying into him, she looks over and she sees one of the feathers, like, from the pillow, like, drifting in the wind. And this, for some reason, makes her think of her dream, which makes her realize that Freddy was going into Rod's cell and that Rod's life is probably in danger. So they bolt to the prison, to the jail, to make sure he's okay. It is very strange to me. So as they're walking towards his cell, we see in Rod's cell that the sheet has come to life and it's wrapping around his neck and it pulls him and hangs him. And it pulls him and it hangs him, but like it has just hung him. Like he's like just beginning to scream for life when they open the door. And then they open the door and he is dead. Like it looks like he's been dead for days. He's got a blue face. He's a goner. And like he just hung him. That he would have had time, but whatever. He's dead. Freddy got him. They bring him down. Nancy's freaked out. They check his pulse. He is dead. He is gone. And Freddy got him.
My notes say he really did die that quick. That's what my note says.
It takes a long time. I mean, I don't know, but I think it's like a
Did you
minute.
break his neck you squeezed it so tight that you snapped his...
Like, just like that. Like, he barely, I don't know. I don't love that, but he dead. Yeah. That's done. I don't miss Rod. It was kind of
interesting. But
he has the best death of anybody. I think Depp, I think Glen has the worst because we got no body. Glen is just like, that's a whole fucking thing. I think Glen is like the worst, then Tina, and then I think Rod has the most respectful, least painful.
Bloody. Yeah.
Yes. I think he's got the best case scenario here. Mm-hmm. So
up next, we get Rod's funeral scene. Then Nancy finally reveals to her parents that the killer is still out there and that he's wearing a sweater that's red and green and has knives for fingers. But the camera pans to each of her parents individually, and Papa tells Mama to take her home so she can get over the shock of her friend dying.
And they kind of pan on their faces for a little bit too long. Their reactions. I think it's meant to be like they know something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, the only thing I'm shocked about is who did Marge's makeup. Clownery.
There's a lot of things to say about Marge's look. I'm still focused on the tanning bed. And I love a tanning bed. I have nothing against a tanning bed. But everything on her face is the same color. It's very specific, man. I don't know.
So Pops tells Mama to take her home and rest up. But instead, Marge takes her to the Katja Institute for the Study of Sleep Disorders. And I'm like, all right, at least we're doing something here,
I
right?
agree. I don't think this is the worst decision. Let's
Yeah.
get some answers here. Let's not just dismiss her.
Mm-hmm. So we get in there. Nancy is hooked up to all the equipment. She winds up going into a deep sleep as her mom is talking to the doc about when the dreams started appearing. It is here where we get our first cigarette as Marge lights one up
In the
in the
hospital.
office.
Classic.
Class C as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as they watch her begin to have a nightmare, which we can't see anything of, but Nancy is like violently shaken
Yeah.
about, they wake her up as she's kind of flailing about and she has a wound on her arm, like a puncture wound, but miraculously has a hat with her. And she
Falls
says,
right
I
out.
brought something back from my dream. An aha moment, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Back at home, Nancy overhears her mom talking to, is it her father on the phone?
I'm assuming. Yeah.
Okay. She's talking to the father on the phone about what happened at the sleep center and tries to hide a bottle of booze behind her back because
What are
she
you
is
hiding?
in.
You ain't hiding shit, lady. Nancy knows. Nancy
It's just
knows.
like, there's like this sticking up behind her. I think she's in a little bit of disbelief, but Nancy is donning another delightful knit here in the kitchen.
Hmm.
But she's super brazen, and she's now telling her mother, Rod didn't kill Tina, and Rod didn't hang himself. This guy is after us in our dreams.
Yeah.
And she pulls the hat from the drawer that her mom said she got rid of and said, even his name is written on the inside. His name is Fred Krueger. Do you know who he is, mother? Because he's after me now.
I find it kind of alarming that Nancy has to go still through these hoops because her mom saw that she went to bed at the sleep study and she literally witnessed her hair turn white. Let's talk about that. Her hair literally, she has like a big fucking highlight in her hair all of a sudden, a white highlight. She pulled a hat out of her sack and then she also has this huge like gash on her arm. And nobody's talking about this enough. I don't understand. Her mom is still questioning her sanity at this point. And I want to be like, you witnessed. Maybe the mom is just in denial. And she does
Mhm.
seem a little bit cuckoo pants with her, Svedka. But I have a lot less respect for Marge that she witnessed this and is still making Nancy feel like she's crazy and still telling her, like, oh, all you need is some sleep, dear. Like, once you get some sleep, that's the whole
Mhm.
problem, lady. She can't sleep. Get it? It's pretty frustrating,
Get
Marge.
real, Marge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Nancy's fed up and
Mm-hmm.
she is in this argument with her mom and she says, maybe I should just grab that bottle and veg out with you. Avoid everything that's happening to me by just getting good and loaded. And you know what? Hey, I'm on board.
Mm-hmm. I'm
But
with her.
Marge slaps her across the face.
Don't love that, Marge. Not a good look.
No.
Uh-uh.
And in the heat of the moment, Marge says, Fred Krueger can't come after you, Nancy, because he's dead. But Nancy is clearly pissed because she says, you knew about him all this time and you've been acting like it's something I made up? Well, screw sleep, and throws the bottle of alcohol on the floor. So she obviously leaves the house and she goes to see good old Glen. They walk over a bridge with their fast food in hand, and Glen asks her if she knows about the Balinese way of dreaming. And he mentions that they have a whole system they call dream skills. So if you have a nightmare like falling, instead of screaming and getting all nuts, you say, okay, I'm going to make up my mind that I fall into a magic world. Make it something special, like a poem or a song. And then you just wake up and write it down. And Nancy says, well, what about monsters? And Glenn says to turn your back on it and it will somehow go away. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
say in this? Thanks for nothing, Glenn. What are you trying to tell me? I'm trying to come at you with some problem solving. I just think it's odd that she is like, what about monsters? And he's like, well, you just turn your back on it and, pretend it's not there or whatever.
Oh,
And
he's the
everything's
fucking
fine.
worst. And this is why I say, like, he's a slow burn worst. Like, he's not as in your face as, like, Marge or
Mm-hmm.
Rod being, like, dipshits. But, like, he's very unhelpful. And, talk about sweater vests. He ain't the best dresser. He's a little hoity-toity. He's very good looking. I did read that Wes Craven, so there's a lot of people up for that role.
Yeah.
Like big names. Charlie Sheen, John Cusack, Brad Pitt, Kiefer
Sheesh.
Sutherland, Nicolas Cage. There were some big names considered for the role of Glen. And Wes Craven's daughter saw Johnny Depp and was so taken with him. She said, if you don't cast him in this role, I'm going to run away. And that man owes that little girl his career. Because this really this was like this sprung him into 21 Jump Street. This really like launched his ass. This was huge. This film made bank. And
It was a
so
banger.
I hope he realizes
Yeah. What fucking luck,
mhm,
JD.
mhm.
Nancy in this moment is reading about booby traps and anti-personal devices. She's into survival. And you know what? She's trying to be our final girl after all. And she goes back home and annoyingly walks to the front door. And I didn't catch this on the first glance, but there are bars on the window.
On everything. Like even the
Every
little baby
window.
window at the door, there are bars on.
And she gets inside and she says, "Mother!" Marge floats into the hallway and lights up a cigarette.
She's got a bottle of booze, like tucked in her robe. I don't.
Icon. She's an icon.
She's something.
Well, apparently she's been busy barring up all the windows from the house for security.
Yeah, I don't know how she did that in an afternoon.
God
For
damn.
some reason, I thought my recollection was I thought the dad at some point had done that. And watching it and realizing that she had gone to the trouble of buying and getting someone to install those in an afternoon from really nothing. What caused her to do that? Because
Yeah.
Nancy broke her bottle of booze? I don't know. I don't know.
No, I would have, right.
What led.
She's like, well, I guess I'm out. Time to go to the store. And while I'm at it, I'll just pick up some bars because nobody's getting in here.
Right now.
She really took matters into her own hands, didn't she?
Big time. Yeah.
Nancy's like, security? Security from what? Marge is like, not from what, from whom? Come down to the cellar with me and I'll tell you. What a weirdo. Come down to the cellar, have a cigarette with me.
She's so fucking cryptic and stupid. I fucking do not enjoy this lady. She's the worst. With her robe and her bottle of booze, it's like 6 o'clock at night.
That might be me someday.
Maybe us all, but
So I'm just gonna
lay off the tanning bed. I'll tell you that.
So in a lovely mother-daughter moment, Mom tells Nancy that Fred Krueger was a child murderer who killed at least 20 kids in the neighborhood and kids that they all knew. So she tells her they eventually found out who it was and it was bad. And she reaches up into the furnace and pulls something out. But she continues to say, the lawyers got fat and the judge got famous, but somebody forgot to sign the search warrant in the right place and Krueger was free, just like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more details. I don't think it's as simple as somebody forgot. I want more. She glosses over this just a little too quickly. I almost reached out to my
She was hitting the bottle a little too hard. Some flaws in that story.
I big time. Big time. I almost reached out to my contacts in law enforcement and be like, what? Could this happen? Could somebody just forget? I mean, I understand like loopholes and like if you forget to read somebody their Miranda rights. I do think child murderer, 20 kids, evidence. I do think that would hold up, and I don't think a search warrant would. I don't know. It was glossed over, and I think they just thought we wouldn't notice, but we noticed. I didn't like that. Give me more, Marge.
Yeah.
You know.
Very odd.
Mm-hmm.
Then she says, so a bunch of the parents tracked him down. They found him in an old abandoned boiler room where he used to take the kids. And they spread gasoline all around the outside of the building and out the front door and lit it and watched the whole thing burn. Damn, that's dark.
I did read though, because this explains why most of the kids are only childs. Like Tina's an only child, Johnny Depp's an only child, like Rod, I don't even know, that guy is in his 30s. But Nancy isn't, like all of these are only child, and the reason for that is because all of these parents, one of their children, was taken. It's a small town. I find it shocking, utterly shocking, that Nancy didn't know anything about this, that none of these kids, like, how long ago did this happen? It seems as though it was not that long ago. And so I kind of find it crazy that this was never brought up. Ever? Huh? There's a big child murderer in the town, and he killed your brother. But we never spoke about it? I don't know. It seems unlikely.
It would give some context to the way that the parents operate in some ways. I mean, like boozing it up and smoking cigs and whatever. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Divorcing, possibly. I don't know.
It would maybe give context to their divorce, although I think they just don't love each other anymore from from their relationship. It's more than that, but like it would give reason to maybe why her parents divorced, from the trauma of losing a child, and but
yeah,
I don't know. Interesting.
So she says he's dead because mommy killed him. I even took his knives. And she pulls out the self-made glove that he killed the kids with.
Mommy killed him. That's fucking weird.
Nancy is kind of like, what the fuck? Finds out she gets a bomb dropped on her. So she calls Glen, who lives across the street, remember, who's looking fit in his crop top and sweatpants.
Looks real good. I'll give it to him. He looks real good.
And she casually says that she's barely slept in 7 days, yada, yada, yada. She tells him that she knows who the killer is and that he might be next to die. So she tells him to help her nail him when she brings him out. She's devised this plan. So by holding on to him when she gets woken up, like she's going to go into the nightmare scene, she's going to hold on to him and get woken up, and magically he's going to come into the waking world. And if not, then it'll prove she's nuts.
What really gets me about this scene is that at one point she says, just promise me you'll be there to cold cock this guy when I pull him out. And I'm like, he's literally in a crop top. And this guy has not come through for you once. And you think this little dude is going to kill Freddy Krueger? Like, Nancy, baby, you got a better chance on your own. Glen, if you haven't learned that you can't count on anybody but yourself at this point, when she said that, I just, my mouth dropped open. You got to be shitting me. He's not going to cold cock anybody.
Nope. she's looking for someone, and she knows that he at least doesn't think that she's all that crazy.
No. And again, I have a lot of respect for Nancy for coming up with a plan, for not like taking a seat back, for really trying to do something about the situation instead of just like being a victim. I applaud her. I just think like maybe somebody else should have been consulted before Glen, but I get it. He's your boy toy, your boyfriend. You gotta go with what you know, but bold.
Yeah, really choice. Someone you can trust. It's her number one, really, because all of her friends are dead.
That's true.
I mean, I do love hearing, you whacked the fucker, and we got him. She's just casually like, whatever you do, don't fall asleep, and meet me on the porch at midnight. Nancy tries to stay awake, while Glen is seen sleeping with headphones on. Of course. Of course.
Who's shocked?
And he's got his portable TV in bed with him, his Mom comes in, wakes him up, and explains that he's only watching TV before bed because Miss Nude America was on that night and he wants some eye candy.
Mm-hmm.
So
They
this
have
is
a fun
another.
relationship. They do have a nice. I do enjoy that. There's some fun mom and son dialogue here.
But it does give a callback to the masturbation of it all. Maybe he was looking for a little.
I don't think Glenn masturbates. I'm gonna go out on a limb.
I mean, he wanted to look at the nudie girls on the TVs.
I mean, he's a teenage boy, but I don't know. I don't get sexual being from Glen. Even
Okay.
Johnny Depp Glen, but I don't know. I don't know everything.
So he looks at the clock and it's only 18 minutes before midnight, and Nancy is springing into action by convincing her mom that she's going to go to sleep. She pulls out her hidden coffee from under the bed and drinks a cup full
Like a
before
full
changing.
coffee pot is under her bed.
That's hilarious.
She's doing the most. She is doing
You
the
know?
most.
Glen's parents are watching on from across the street on their porch, and they think this girl's crazy. Mainly the father.
Dad. He's a real dick.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy
Yeah.
that.
So Nancy tries to leave out of her bedroom, but her mom is in the hallway swigging another gulp of that good. So so she tries calling so she tries calling Glenn's house again to talk to him, but his parents say he's sleeping, and the dad takes the phone and is just like, talk to him in the morning, and hangs up. And they leave the phone off the hook so that they're not bothered, which, as a parent you might do. Like, don't call my fucking house at
I
midnight.
get it. It's late, and I understand. I do find it a little insulting because Nancy lives across the street. They probably grew up with her playing with Glen. And I don't, it doesn't sit well with me that they're so quick to turn on her because she witnessed a horrendous murder of her best friend's boy. Like, she's been through some trauma. And instead of being understanding, the mom is more understanding. The mom is not as much of a
Sure.
dick, but the dad is just like, let's cut her out. We don't want her around him. We don't want to infect him.
Toxic.
Fuck you, man. Jesus.
Nancy gets a phone call, but only hears Freddy's screeching knives on the other end. So she pulls the phone out of the wall. And then she's like, fuck, I don't have a way to contact Glen. But then the phone rings again, and it's off the hook.
This is my favorite scene. I love this scene.
Interesting. So she answers the phone that's been ripped out of the wall, and he says, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. And the mouth of the phone is now his tongue, which is wonderful. And he licks her face. It's cute.
I do enjoy it. So,
so you like this one, and
I
not,
do like this one,
and not the one from before.
I pick and choose because really, I guess it's no more revolting than the bathtub scene. But something about this is more like playful, and it's less like she's not naked. I don't know. I don't like the naked of her in a bath. I don't enjoy that. But this is just pure silliness, and it's funny, and it's Freddy at his best. I think it's one of his best moments for sure.
Wonderful. So Nancy tries to leave through the front door, but it's all locked up and she can't get out. And here we get drunken mom on the couch, won't let her out.
Locked. What the fuck? When did that happen? When did this lady go from like a secret swig in her coffee to like a full-on absolute drunk, like a full-on alcoholic problem? I don't know when that transition happened, but it happened.
I think I think we were getting glimpses of it with the tanning of it all and the makeup of it all. She's been a loose cannon since we met her on screen.
It's very clear. Something's going on with Marge. Yeah. She's dealing with some demons.
She doesn't even have the key. I don't even have the key. Don't have the key. It's locked. It's locked.
Nancy isn't even that pissed. She's just like, oh god damn it, and she like hits the couch, but she doesn't. I would be losing my. I would be breaking through the window if because she knows what's happening. She knows what's going down.
Yeah.
She knows what's going down.
So then we cut to Glen, who was obviously fast asleep. And he's snoozing. He's got the earphones on. He's got the TV on top of him at this point. And then Freddy's hand comes up out from under him and pulls him through the bed. Just through, like, sucks him under. His whole body falls in. The TV goes in there with him. The radio goes in. And then moments later, we get a geyser of blood flowing out from the hole in the bed.
I mean, so much blood. And I mean, I do love this scene. This is so iconic. This like shoot, like all the ceiling is like just covered. It's like magnificent.
Mhm.
It's a spectacle. But I don't think one human body would admit that much blood.
You know, we don't really know what's being done to him, so it's possible.
Even if he was like fully drained, I don't think he would admit that much blood.
I think
It was. I mean, it was all over the ceiling. How many
I
quarts
think
of blood is in the human body?
How many?
I don't know.
I don't think I want to know. I don't think I want to know.
I think
I think
I don't want to Google search that. I don't want to be a hit on that. But I don't think it would be that much blood. I don't think they were. He was a little dude. He wasn't even a big guy. He was maybe 5'8", maybe like
Yeah.
5'8", 5'9". He was slim. He didn't have a lot of body weight on him. I just don't think he would have admitted that much blood. I think it was a little over the top. Really fun and enjoyable, but
Yeah. You know how they shot the scene?
I don't.
So they turned the room upside down, and they just
Uh-huh.
had people pouring blood out of the bed hole.
That makes so much sense. It's interesting because there's so many practical effects in this movie because their budget was so teeny tiny.
Yeah.
Because they did the same thing with the Tina scene. It was a
Mhm.
rotating room. They couldn't afford to have like hydraulics dragging her.
Right.
And if you really look at that scene, you can tell, but I think it makes it more chilling. There's something about it that's so odd looking that I think if they had the money to do like really serious special effects, I think it would have taken from the spookiness of it. And I think the same thing with this scene. That's wild.
Yeah.
That makes a ton of sense. I can totally see that now
Yeah.
that you say that, but I did not know that.
Yeah. And then his mom opens the door to find, the faucet spraying everywhere.
That's
Tough moment.
tough, but maybe if he could talk to Nancy, none of that would have happened. Maybe not.
They're going to live with that what if the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
But the police and the ambulance arrive to the residence, and Nancy talks to her father on the phone from across the street, who tells him she already knows that he's dead. That's also called out by the blood pooling on the ceiling of their living room from upstairs. A lot of blood.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy tells Pops, I got a proposition for you. I want you to be there to arrest him when I bring him out of my nightmare. Just come back to our house and break the door down in exactly 20 minutes. And then she gets to work setting up her traps. She's a regular old MacGyver over here.
Very Home Alone. I commend her. This is why I say she's one of the most badass, coolest final girls in the game. Because as much as I love Laurie Strode, as much as I love, my Sydney Prescott, none of them are doing this. Like they're very much on the defense. She is on the offense. She's coming up with a plan. She's pulling people into her plan. She is not sitting down, just taking this shit from Freddy. Like she's got a whole plan going on, and I think she's really cool.
And you know what? 15 years old.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Take notes.
Crazy. Yeah. Snaps for Nancy.
So then in a candid moment with Mom, who's ready for bed, Marge tells her she faces things, and that's her nature, that's her gift. But sometimes you have to turn away too. And she puts the bottle down on the bedstand. Who really is the parent now?
Well, that's fine because Nancy is legit tucking her in. And I also don't know when the anger towards Marge for the locked. I don't know when that ended because I would have kept that grudge for years, to be honest. I mean, you wouldn't let me leave to go try to save my boyfriend who was fully murdered across the street. She's very forgiving and very patient with her mommy.
Yeah. I mean, like, even the death of Glen, she really was just like, all right, well, I already
Oh,
knew
yeah.
that was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, testament to that relationship.
Yeah.
Mm.
So she's got her booby trap set. She sets a timer on her little clock, spin-a-rooney thing, whatever, and says, okay, Kruger, we play on your court. And then she says her little prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. Yada, yada, yada.
Very
Religious
chilling. Enter
connotations.
Sandman. Yeah.
She goes to bed. Now we're in dreamland. And Nancy walks down the stairs of her house. We're getting the final boss at this point. She goes down to the cellar. She goes to look for the glove, but guess what? It's gone. She goes deeper down another set of stairs, and the door closes behind her. Freddy is heard laughing, his maniacal laugh. She hears Glen screaming in the distance and Tina calling out to her. She then goes down a ladder even further into the abyss, and she's calling out for Freddy because she's like, I gotta find him. I'm on a time limit. And then she gets to a spot and she finds Glen's headphones that are all bloody by the furnace. She calls for him again. Show yourself, you bastard. And then he pops up. Laser. Bing. And the chase begins. She jumps off of this platform and she's propelled outside of the house now. So it's interesting that you have to like follow along with the dream sequence of it all, right?
Yeah.
And so now she's outside and he's out there with her. So she charges him and holds on. Her timer goes off. She wakes up holding him, but he's nowhere to be found. And she starts walking around until he pops up from the other side of the bed. And good thing for her, she set up all her traps. So she's hitting him with a bunch of different things. She shuts the door to her bedroom and sets the sledgehammer to fall at some point. And she goes down the stairs and she's screaming for her dad to help her, which is all she ever wanted. And another fucking D-bag that can't help this poor 15-year-old who's literally doing the most.
Yeah.
She
Not even just
screams.
men, because Marge is a piece of shit too. Everybody's a piece of shit. Nobody's
Yeah.
helping this lady. She's on her
Everyone
own.
sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So she's screaming for her dad to help her. She can't get anyone's attention. The cop across the street is just like, yeah, everything's going to be all right, whatever. At this point, Freddy gets the door of her bedroom open and the sledgehammer falls and hits him in the gut. And he's just like, ooh. These are like kind of funny moments where he's just like getting poked and prodded and then he falls down, like over the banister and falls down the stairs. And then it gets a little less jokey when he tells Nancy, I'm going to split you in two. And she's breaking windows in the living room and all throughout the house. She's trying to get everyone's attention and it's not working. She goes down to the cellar and she grabs onto like kerosene or something and she throws it onto him and it like breaks on his body. And then she gets a match out of nowhere and just tosses it at him.
Yeah.
She lights his ass on fire again.
Mm-hmm.
This is also hilarious because this is clearly a man in a fire suit.
The person walking up the stairs, I mean, like...
They really could not get him a stunt double that, like, worked, So after she lights him on fire, she kind of locks him in the basement. He can't get up. He's falling down the stairs. It's very comical. And finally, Dad comes over to the house. Fucking dipshit. They're looking through the house. They can't find him. And there's like steps of fire because he's trailing fire. And Nancy quickly realizes that he's going to go after her mom. So she goes upstairs. She follows the fire tracks and opens up the door to where she was sleeping, and Freddy is on top of her in bed, lit up. So he's like on her with the fire, and she's burning underneath of him. And the dad gets a blanket to cover them both to put them out. But mom is toast at this
Gone.
point. She's roasted. And in a it's a very like super weird way that she's lit up.
It's
And then
very
just
80s. Like, it is the most 80s scene of the whole movie because the whole bed becomes like a light post kind of thing. And she like sinks into the into the stratosphere. I don't know, into the underworld. I don't know where she goes, but like it's lit up in a way that's it reminds me of like Poltergeist / Labyrinth. It's very like weird and strange, and it kind of doesn't really fit the rest of the mood of the movie. I don't love it. I don't hate it because it's funny.
yeah. This is where it starts to get odd from here on out for the rest of the film. It starts to be a little
yeah,
a little kooky. Let's see where this goes. It's a choice, right? The bed lights up, she sinks into it, but then the bed turns normal, and it's as if nothing is there, and the bed is made, and everything's fine. And then she tells her dad to go back downstairs, and she shuts the door behind her. He comes out from the bed, so the bed was made before, and he's like in the bed sheet, and then he like puts his fingers through and tears through. And she realizes and understands what's happening, that it's all been just a dream, and that she wants her mom and her friends back. So now we're entering a different section where it's kind of hard for me to really follow along, right? Because and then what is that? A dream within a nightmare? It's something weird where she like something clicks for her and she understands what's going on. And she does say that it's all been just a dream, right? And that she wants her mom. She declares like, I just want my mom and my friends back.
And this is what I want. And you know, you're shit. You're
yeah.
I do love that. Like, you're nothing. And she's taking back her power and saying basically like, I've given you too much energy and I want it back now. Thank you. Please and thank you. Yeah.
Right. And she doesn't really give him anything. She like turns her back to him, which is maybe what Glen was talking about in the dream skills or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Yeah. And he tries to go after her, but kind of like vanishes in a blue light. Like he tries to go at her back, but then like falls through the floor.
Right. Like his power has been lost and he has no power. So he tries to grab after her, but she has relinquished the fear that she at one point felt. And now he's powerless and he's just a goob. He's a nothing.
Gotcha. So she walks out of the bedroom and outside her front door simultaneously with her mother, and it's a bright, sunny day. And her mom apparently feels like $1,000,000, and she wants to stop drinking because she just doesn't feel like it anymore. It's like the scene is the glow of your hair. It is just we're in heaven. Everything is kumbaya. The birds are chirping. This time we're in a lilac knit.
Always in a knit. She's always in a knit.
And mom says, "Did I keep you awake last night? You look a little peaked." And Nancy's like, "No, I guess I just slept heavy." So now this is all starting to like make a little bit of sense now that I'm reading what I read. Car pulls up and it's all of her friends in the Corvette, and the cover goes up and the top is green and red stripes. Uh-oh.
Big time.
And then all of a sudden the doors lock in the car, the windows lock themselves, and the car starts moving along the street. They're locked in there.
And they're screaming. They're like, yeah!
And you know what? Mom is in bliss on the porch.
This fucking bot of all the things. everything about this scene, this ending, the thing that bothers me most is that they are screaming in terror in this Freddy Krueger Corvette, and
At one point, I thought the mom was going to be Freddy until Freddy's hand burst through the front door. What? What?
honestly, that's a twist I could have gotten behind. That would have been so good.
So Mama's in bliss until Freddy's hand bursts through the front door, grabbing Marge and pulling her through that tiny hole. Is this another reference? Why so many orifices?
I don't love that. I think they could have just they should have left it at her waving at the Freddy Krueger vehicle and
Yeah.
it being weird. Her like it's very Beetlejuice. Something about it. It's so like it doesn't fit. I think they were going after a Carrie like effect where at the end, the wild, the hand springing out and it being like ah, like if I would have saw this in theaters, I would have laughed. I would have been like, what the fuck? Like I wouldn't have been scared.
And also, the comedy of the extras and whatever, when he pulls her through the hole, it's clearly not a person going through the hole. It's like a blow up doll.
Yeah.
Being sucked.
It's really bad. And I know Wes Craven did not want that. He wanted it to end with Nancy thinking it was all not thinking Nancy, it was all a dream. He wanted her to leave, the friends to come, and it to be like a blissful, like it was all a nightmare, and none of that happened. And the producer on the film with him did not everybody hated that. New Line Cinema, they were like, no, we're not. No, because they wanted room for sequels.
Yeah.
We can't just have it be like a tidy, cute little ending. And so they demanded that he do this, and he fucking hated it. He did not like this. And I kind of live somewhere in between, because I think if she had left and it had all been a dream, I wouldn't be satisfied with that. I don't like that. I think it's too easy. And I think it negates the complexity of the whole fucking film, where we were unsure. Like, I would have been pissed if it seemed like an easy way out for them to be like, it was all just a dream. That's the worst fucking ending. I'd rather everybody die than it was all just a dream. I hate that.
Yeah. And then let's just finish it off, because, we see the car going down the street, and then you see the three girls in the neighbor's yard skipping rope, doing the whole 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
It is spooky. It was very spooky.
What's confusing, though, is like, when did Dad come in? And where the fuck did he go? Was that real at all?
That pissed me off. That's all I wrote. Was like I don't know where he went, but I felt really fucking annoyed that he left so quickly. Like, they just saw her mom taken down to the underworld. A lot of questions about that. They hug, and she says, I'm fine. I'm really okay. Go downstairs. And he fucking goes downstairs. Like, yo, what? Wait, why wouldn't you stick around? Like, why wouldn't you have more? This was a moment to speak about. And he's like, all right, sweetie. All right, baby. Okay. I'm going to go talk to old cop over here. Like, he doesn't have much to say.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was a nutty thing to just witness with your daughter. Your ex-wife was taken into a beam of light somewhere. He just kind of accepted it, and then he went bye-bye.
And then at first, I didn't think of this until just now, because like what we're talking about, because when I first saw it, I was like, now with the glow of everything, does that mean that they're all dead and they're in heaven and they're playing out as if everything's fine, and then but there's Freddy still there even in your fucking it's still a nightmare covered as a daydream sort of thing. And that's a Taylor Swift lyric.
We always come back.
Always full circle.
Yeah, because I don't think it would be heaven if Freddy Krueger was there. And I don't enjoy the ambiguity of it. I find it annoying. And I think it is so obvious that the producers did this so that they could open it to sequels. And I don't fucking like that. And I'm with Wes Craven in that aspect. But I do think if they had just left it the way that he wanted it, it still would have been open to sequels. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Here on Stolly Dolly Scaries, we like to rate our movies based on how many Stolly Dollies it would take you to enjoy the film. And I am going to say 2. It's kind of a high number for me, but let me just explain. I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and there are just some moments that were more enjoyable when I had a little bit of booze in me. The long arm scene, the bathtub scene, the I'm your boyfriend now scene. Like it just makes it a little bit punchier and funner. And I just felt like I got more out of it when I had a little bit of booze in me. Could do it sober, have done it sober many times, but I just felt like I got the most out of the flick with 2 drinks in me. And it's my final call.
Wonderful. Well, I was going to say 1 at first because I think that it would make it more funny. But honestly, I'm going to say 0 because I think it's.
Whoa!
I
Your
think it
highest rating? I'm shook.
is it.
Wow.
Is it
Wow.
though? I feel like I gave Halloween a 0. I could watch
Well,
that any
Halloween
day.
is Halloween. Halloween.
But
Halloween. I just wouldn't have expected you to give a movie because of who you are, because you hold such high regard for these serious horror films and
yes,
have a lesser opinion on
yeah.
the funny and the mix. I'm just so
Mhm.
shocked. I'm so
Well,
happy.
something about this really worked well because you're right. I don't like comedy necessarily in a horror movie, but this was done with finesse in some way. And I think an icon like Robert Englund can literally transform this character into something scary and something funny at the same time. And it doesn't feel out of balance. And I felt like the premise is cool. Like the premise is terrifying. That's where the
Yes,
horror comes in.
absolutely.
We discussed that a little bit. I think the acting was good. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, you should win an award, but it was believable
Yes.
and it balanced the comedy and the horror for me. It also made me think because at the end I was trying to figure, like we just talked about all those things. I was like, this is so interesting. I feel like I could keep talking about it, and that's
Yeah.
exciting from a horror
Yeah.
movie. So yeah, 1984, baby. Let's get it, Freddy. Get
Yeah.
those claws
I
out.
love that you liked it so much. That makes me really happy. It is. It's a movie you can really dissect. And I 100% stand on the ground that like the concept, I love where it was birthed. I love that it was brought from a real original idea, like a real life true story, which makes it so much more terrifying. And yeah, it's magic. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining us. We love talking to you. If you like us, please subscribe, please comment, please. It means so much to us. Until then, don't fall asleep. Yeah, I'm about to put Herbie Krueger to bed. I'm like carrying a baby. I'm so hot. And it's too much. She's in Vegas with her boyfriend, like, when nobody can get a hold of them, like, and we never really hear from them again. Poor Tina.
She's like, I guess my daughter died, and she's at the craps table.
But she runs into a hall meddler.
We get a nipple of Freddy, a peck shot of Freddy. He cuts himself, and there's like ooze and bugs coming out.
I don't know. I don't enjoy the ambiguity. Ambiguity.
Ambiguity.
Ambiguity. Oh, bless you.